Hello, I'm Nancy Strickland, and in this video I'll talk about what you can do to prepare developers for moving to the cloud. If you're considering a move to the cloud for application, data, components, services, anything really, then you've probably already started thinking about how you're going to get the trained IT staff that you'll need to make that happen. Luckily, in most cases, getting IT staff ready to work on cloud projects is going to be relatively simple and inexpensive. Here's why. If your shop is already using Microsoft technologies and products, and we hope you are, then you'll find that moving to the cloud is a relatively painless transition. That's because Microsoft has made it a point to use the same technologies in the cloud that it uses on premises. That includes the same development environment, Visual Studio 2010, and the same .NET languages, C# and Visual Basic, and the same database, SQL Azure, which is a modified cloud version of SQL Server. Of course, there are some modifications and additions in all of these for the cloud, but basically these are similar enough so that IT professionals who are familiar with the on-premises versions will find working in the cloud to be an easy adjustment. We're going to look at each of these right now. To use Visual Studio 2010 for cloud programming, you'll have to install the Azure Software Development Kit, the SDK, and the Windows Azure Tools for Visual Studio. Both of these are available as a single free download from Microsoft. Visit the main Azure site here for a link to the download site. Installing the SDK and the tools gives you templates and components for Visual Studio to make it easy to develop applications, and it also installs a local version of the cloud environment so that you can run your applications locally for testing and debugging. Azure supports these .NET languages. When your code is ready in Visual Studio has tools that make it easy to package your app and upload it to an Azure account in the cloud. In many cases, you'll find that your existing managed code in these languages can be moved into the cloud with very little change. Microsoft's cloud-based database, SQL Azure, is basically SQL Server in the cloud. There are certain limitations associated with the cloud version, but not many, and most of your SQL scripts and queries will port to the cloud with almost no changes. If you're not a Microsoft shop now, but you're considering Azure as your cloud platform, your developers may still be able to use the languages they already know, because Azure can work with Java, PHP, Ruby, and Python, and other languages may be possible in the future. Not all of the tools for third-party languages like these are fully supported yet. In some cases, what's available is community-based, but there are SDKs for Java, PHP, and Ruby. Also, you can probably use your current development tools, like Eclipse, for example, to write your code in these non-Microsoft languages. In fact, there's an Azure plugin available for Eclipse. I'd still like to encourage you to consider Visual Studio 2010, though, because of the built-in support for local testing. The cloud's not the best environment for debugging. If you'd like to consider Visual Studio, let me suggest that you start by downloading Visual Studio 2010 Express or Visual Web Developer 2010 Express. Both of these are completely free, and they can give developers a good feeling for how well Visual Studio supports Azure development. The link here at the bottom will take you to the download site for all the Microsoft Express products. Of course, there are still cloud-specific things that developers will need to learn before they can write new code or modify old code to run on Windows Azure or to work with SQL Azure. Microsoft has lots of sources of free help and training for you, and the best place to start is right here. It has links to documentation and pricing information and training and downloads of all kinds. As I'm recording this video in April of 2011, it also has a link to a free limited trial of Windows Azure. That's only good until the end of June, so if you're interested, you should check into this right now. One of the best sources for training on Azure is the site that you're on right now, MSDev, which is the first place that solution developers should turn to for support and training for any Microsoft technology. MSDev has many dozens of videos and tutorials that cover all aspects of the Azure platform, and they're constantly being updated. A good series for a non-technical and lighthearted general overview is the series called Why Windows Azure, which helps business and technical decision makers understand the Azure technologies. A good place for a technical quick start is the series called Getting Started Developing on Windows Azure, and you can follow that with videos from the series called Windows Azure Training 2011, which you can select based on your specific interests, such as data storage or messaging. There are also specialized series of videos for programmers with special interests, such as PHP. You can keep up with what's new on MSDev on these social networking sites. Below the Twitter logo is my personal Twitter ID. I use it to announce new videos as they're posted, so you can follow me if you want that information. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.